Okay, I'm at 3483 Westbury Road in Dayton, Ohio, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that may be of concern to the buyer. Now I do have a standoff on this to make it better when we go through here, but I'm not sure it's going to be able to. I have to see if I can knock a little bit of this rust loose here on the line. As the water comes down, this is a Y, as you can see, and as that access point there Y's, the water comes running down that pipe and it just leaves a bunch of residue here on the side of the pipe. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get this thing through here. Put a little standoff on there to help with the help be able to see a little better down the center of the kind of centers of the camera in the pipe. But we are not going to be able to use that in this case just because of that rust there. This is now those things don't. It's not affecting the flow at all. Instead, this is like a little Y that's off to the side for access, and so that little bit of that's just because this isn't used. You can see like it's just built up on the side, and then once you get through that, it's open pipe. So cast iron. I don't know how long the house has been empty. There should have been some water run today, testing fixtures and such. So, I'm inspecting based off the age of the house, which is like 1961. I'm going to stop real quick. You see this opening there on the top of the screen? This is probably a floor clean out underneath this workbench here. And there it is. It's just underneath the workbench there, really between this stack and the front wall. I didn't see it because it was sitting on top, and I don't know if this. I'm assuming you could probably move that workbench to get in there if ever needed. But the cast iron is a kind of a strange material. Really no way for you to judge how much life it has left in it. It does rust, obviously, just by the nature of it being cast iron. And so you usually can't tell. You can have this thing descaled. Sometimes you can do that, but different plumbers have different opinions on that because of the the chance that you could also, if you don't know the walls are thin and you try to have it descaled, it can blow a hole in the side of the pipe if it's thin, so you might create damage that wasn't there before. But because you can see the buildup on the bottom of the pipe, and it's usually just scale buildup and rust buildup. That's why the bottom of the line looks flat. So if we don't see any current holes or anything in the line, which are sometimes hard to identify just due to the nature of due to the nature of the line and the material, because obviously rust looks horrible anyway, and it's hard to tell whether it's surface rust or whatever. But I wanted to also mention, because of being cast iron, to make sure you never want to use wet wipes in any material, but cast iron is even worse because it can catch on the rust very easily, and the wet wipes do not break down like toilet paper is designed to. If you ever question that, you can run that. You can run one of those wet wipes underneath the bathroom sink along with a piece of toilet paper and watch the difference. Watch how the toilet paper disintegrates like it's supposed to, so that it doesn't cause issues like that. And the wet wipe will not. Okay, so don't use them, but or just throw them away if you do. Okay, so we exited. Once we got past that cast iron, you can see it goes into concrete, and you can tell that because of the. You can see the little exposed aggregate there, the rocks and stuff. Let's see if we can keep that clear. But then you immediately have some root intrusion. Root intrusion is not. It's not abnormal. You have a lot of it in houses this age. And so I just kind of poked a hole in it. You are getting some buildup. I mean, at the very least, this will need to be cleaned. And then usually after that, if there is root intrusion, there's a couple different options, but you should be able to, maintain it on a regular basis using either a chemical. You want to watch to find out if that's going to have an issue with the concrete pipe, and the cast iron. Or you can have it cleaned periodically. If done well, you can get 3 to 5 years in between cleaning the roots. But that depends on how well it's done and the access point. This looks like there's pretty good access here, but right now I would recommend that you get cleaning before taking occupancy to get rid of those roots. Now hopefully that's the only stuff we see throughout the length of the lateral. And there was some buildup there at that point, and I did poke a hole through it with the camera. So it did release some of that water, but looks like we're leaving the property and now we're going into clay. It's pretty strange to go from concrete to clay, but looks like it probably means we're leaving the property and that we're getting close to the main, but we do have some more root intrusion at the transition between that concrete and clay pipe. This usually means we're getting close to the main. When they transition like that, it's usually where the developer who would do the sewer mains and then run a piece of pipe off the main up into the yard. And that usually gets taken over. The maintenance of that usually gets taken over by the municipality. And then the concrete goes up to that point, and that's usually where the demarcation line is between the private property and the municipality again. So most likely anything in this clay, if it ever had like structural issues or anything in it, would be the responsibility of the sewer department. But this all looks really good, structurally anyway. You do have some root intrusion. They all seem to be right here at joints, which it is relatively normal. There we are looking straight down into the main. Let's see if we can rinse the camera off a little bit. There we go. Okay. But the line looks good structurally. You just have some root intrusion at some joints. Usually happens over the years when the packing at those joints breaks down, and then little finger roots start to get in there, and as long as you can keep them at bay and not let them grow out of control, they shouldn't do a whole lot of structural damage to the line. You just have to maintenance on a regular basis, meaning with a chemical maybe every 6 months to a year. If cleaning, if done well, like I mentioned earlier, if they can get like a 6-inch double knife in here, they can do, if done well, you can get quite a few years in between having a cleaning done, and then maybe some chemical treatment can sometimes be a good preventative measure, but you have to watch the way those chemicals interact with the pipe material. So it can thin out the cast iron, and the concrete you would have to check because it may actually eat the concrete up a little bit too. Doesn't seem to bother the clay. So we have some root intrusion right off the bat at about 12 to 14 feet. And we have a little bit here at 44. So 40 to 44, that's a pretty big amount. And you may want to, just looking at that size, you may want to have a reinspection done after the cleaning. A lot of companies will have a camera to be able to look at it post-cleaning. There are permanent options to get rid of the roots. If you get it, they will still have to clean it, but then you can have it lined or something like that that won't allow the roots back in, but it's a pretty expensive option. And before that existed, you just did maintenance on the line when you needed to. Concrete looks really good. You can see where the water level, the wear mark is. That's as high as the water level ever gets. So here's that stuff I pushed out of the way, and so you have some roots here about 15 feet. So 14 to 15 feet. Looks like some really short connections there. Now we're back in the cast iron. Again, the cast iron looks like it's open and flowing. We're going to try to run some water. I'm going to sit right here below this clean out. I'm going to run some water in the back half of the house. Let it come down the back branch, and then we'll see if we can take a look at how the flow acts as it goes through that cast iron, because that'd be a good indicator. So we're going to pause the video for a second and go run some water. Okay, so yeah, you can see the water running through, and I didn't see any major, there was no debris in the line as far as anything that's sitting here that would be, for no reason. Again, with the cast iron, with the buildup on the bottom, you can attempt to have these descaled, like I mentioned earlier, but if there is a weak spot in the line somewhere, the descaling will find it. And so, as long as you're not having any flow problems, I wouldn't mess with it. But whoever you have come out to clean it may have a different opinion.
I wonder if that's free.
But see, the line is open and flowing at time of inspection. And so we are back at the clean out. Back into the drum. So, to sum up, the line looked great structurally. You just have a couple spots with some root intrusion. I believe it was like 14 to 15 feet. Has some root intrusion and starting to get it large enough to get down into the flow line, and then also somewhere between 40 and 44 feet. Those are those 40 to 44 feet roots aren't in the flow line, so it's not a big deal. So. But I would recommend having a cleaning to get the line clear at 14 to 15 feet. That could cause backups. Essentially, right when you get a bunch of people into the house, it may cause buildup and a backup. So the rest of the line looked good structurally. So and then it's open and flowing at time of inspection. So that'll end the inspection at 3483 Westbury Road in Dayton, Ohio.